We are now recording the August 3rd, 2018 Small Business Accounting Advisors. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Well, let's announce the good news first. Hector's got his YouTube
Yeah, I saw that. I saw
Yay.
that.
Yay!
I hope he's using Vimeo now.
Yeah, $500 later.
I hope he's backing it up someplace.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a hard lesson. You know, you trust a company as large as that, and you think, oh, good, they're storing my videos. And
did he ever find out why they did that?
No answer.
No, he talked to enough people that he determined that it wasn't because he was using the word into it. You know, he was worried about copyright. He did another video this afternoon that mentioned that he talked about, you know, I say Intuit, I say QuickBooks. Then he's been reading the book, the Peter.
Life After Google or something.
The Drucker Report.
The Drucker Report.
Oh,
and so he said maybe it was that, you know. So he's going to stop the book for a while until he finds out. But you know, it was a depressing and horrid couple of days for the poor man. But you know, you always grow and you're better in the long run. So.
Right.
But all our linked videos are gone. Mine are, where I had put them on, like my favorite videos. I'd put them in there. They were
right. Yours are all gone. They've disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a lesson all of us can learn, actually.
And don't have everything in one spot.
He's posed some really good questions. If you can't fix it, do you own it?
And if it's free, do you own it? Yeah.
But
nothing's free.
Not free. I want to say even Intuit falls and QBOA falls in that class too.
Yeah. They've got your data. Got to read that.
They've got your data, and if they want to close you down, they do.
Mm-hmm.
The guns,
or if they want to make changes, if they want to make changes, you know, to your system. You know, if you rely on something, then they make a change. Like this new. When I did my certification, I learned more about this new sort of a task manager, keeping track of all your clients and all that. I mean, if you get really dependent on that for managing your practice, and all of a sudden you say, it's not working very well. You're just discontinue it after September 3rd, you know, or something like that.
Yeah, but Hector was years worth of work.
Years
4 years.
Yeah, if I'm him, I'm backing up that stuff to someplace else, like Vimeo or someplace else.
It really would be important if they could share, at least to him, what was the problem, you know.
It could be just something internal. I mean, enough of us made enough noise that they, you know, reinstated them, and much quicker than just a regular average person.
I was on Reddit, and people were giving me, what are they, handles or names or something of people who worked for YouTube. You've got to contact this. You got to contact him. You got to, you know. And I was sending messages to them. And then Sunday, no, it was Monday morning, I got a response back that said, we've looked into it, or thank you for bringing it to our attention. We've looked into it, and he's been reinstated.
And that's all you get.
It might have been like some sort of
algorithm.
Yeah, it might have been some algorithm where, you know, just.
But people were saying it's hard to get broken down. He would have gotten 3 warnings unless it was serious, and I'm like, he got no warning.
Yeah, he woke up one day and had nothing.
Now, what I was concerned about was if a competitor goes in and starts dinging all his videos. Yeah, that can be enough to do it. So if that's what it is, I sure hope they can figure out who it was, but I don't know.
What do you mean What do you mean dinging?
You can complain. You can report the videos for either, you know, for all kinds of things.
Right.
And if it's serious enough, or there's enough of them, they don't even tell you you're down.
Yeah, if you want to be really malicious, and you know,
there's a lot of malicious people out there.
I know, and you know, so you know, but yet half porn crap comes up. You know, you go to YouTube and you go, "Whoa, what's that?" It's like, how are you on there? Why do you want to be recommended to me? What did I do?
Right, exactly.
How is it when you're on a search site, even Google, when you're on a search site looking for something entirely different, and all of a sudden that stuff pops up? Really? Unbelievable.
I mean, it's like, all right, some kid been on my machine or something. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really outrageous.
I'm really an Halo. I'm serious. I'm not.
No, I get it. I have always lived by the, long ago.
I don't click on stuff.
When I first started, doing accounting on computers, I had an experience where I left my computer on overnight and came back in the morning and had porn in my face as soon as I walked in. Like,
oh.
And it was nasty stuff too. It wasn't even the normal.
Enough to make you not touch a computer ever again.
Right, exactly. So I learned.
Where's the Lysol?
Yeah.
So that was good news. What other good news do we have this week?
Well, I don't know if it's good or not. Hubdoc was acquired by Xero.
That's an interesting.
Yeah, I saw that, and I'm thinking, I wonder what that means for how what's going to work with Intuit now.
Well, I can tell you that I had my normal check-in with them the next day, and so I was talking to the gal, and I said, and she goes, "Oh, we're all excited and everything," and I said, "The only thing that comes to mind is if I were Xero, why would I invest money in my biggest competitor?" And she said,
they competitors, though? I mean,
QBO and Xero.
Oh, QBO and Xero. Yeah, I'm thinking
that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
These guys are coming closer and closer together.
Right.
More apps are working with both of them.
Right. So she said because the interface was with QBO first, and then they added Xero in 2014, and so somehow it's morphed into, I guess, if Intuit didn't try to buy them, they're idiots. But anyway, Xero got the deal. But so I said, she says, well, we're not going to turn off QBO
yet.
And I said, yeah. And she goes, well, that's
it may not be there.
She goes, that's a big part of our business. I said, what percentage? She says 75%. That's huge.
Yeah.
Wow. Who's the other company that works with Xero and also does QuickBooks? Is it a hosting company? There was something else too a couple months ago. I forget.
Gusto? The payroll, but they weren't bought out. They're just
no, Xero got.
Xero seems a little odd because the deal, while it looks really big, like a good chunk of it is in stock. So if you look at, first of all, Intuit's just making billions. I mean, billions. Okay. And then Xero has been losing millions of dollars every year.
That's what I thought. I thought they were having some financial.
Doing well. So it's like, that's interesting. So I think we have a new CEO and he's turning it around, and payroll was the big deal killer. So they finally just chunked trying to do their own payroll, and they hooked up with Gusto. Now they've got payroll in every state. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're getting past these things, and they said she gave me the impression that Xero needed Hubdoc to their technology to really ramp up that feeds, the bank feeds and everything. So it was a good move on Xero's part, but
the reports still aren't that. Xero's reports still aren't that great, I don't think.
No, they're not great at all. But it's going to take them a while to rebound. They poked the bear, woke up Intuit. Intuit went, oh, I guess we better do some R&D on our QBO. And then QBO, then they turned around and at least got a lot of features that were Xero was, picking up.
Well, I use Xero because they don't charge me, but if they ever start charging me, I think I would probably, that's why I have my backup plan with QBO, is I would just, I figure if they want loyalty, they should get a dog. I have no loyalty at all with, software companies.
What I said is the
Get a dog.
And I wish Tiffany was here, because the accounting in Australia and even Canada is really different than our accounting when it comes to banking. I mean, there are no outstanding checks.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I like the Xero's cash coding because when I'm looking at QBO, having to reconcile like 1,200 checks. With Xero, you can sort them in by payee, by date, by account, and so you can do multiple. You can reconcile 100 at a time. Whereas I'm having a hard time seeing that in QBO, unless I go in and do all these bank rules. But I haven't seen it yet. Where I figure I'll look at the advanced certification module, see if there's anything that tells me how to do that.
So there's, but you know what? Aren't we seeing, this whole chunkification and
things starting to
get a general ledger with basic features and then add on this and inventory and that and CRM and payroll and all, and now years later we're all like, there's too many choices.
Yep.
So
I imagine that they are starting to combine or merge or divine each other.
Yeah. It's like a pendulum, and they go one way and then go the other, and over correct and then go back. And
it's an interesting time. Makes you want to invest in something.
Dennis, do you see Xero working better for certain types of clients?
The only thing I really use it for is my own bookkeeping, accounting, which you do like maybe every 6 months, Yeah. That's why I like the cash coding. I tend to recommend QBO because that's what I'm more familiar with in terms of the financial. I think the financial.
We need Shelley Robbins here to talk about Xero. She's the Xero person.
Yeah, although I was at lunch about a month ago with Beth Damon, with Beth. And I was asking her about that, and she said, well, she kind of goes back and forth, too. I mean, she was like a writer on the Intuit Network. I'm not sure if she still does that, but I'm not sure.
Beth
Shelley Robbins.
You know who Beth is? Beth Damus?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anyway, she was saying that Shelley had done stuff with Finagraph, too. And so I haven't really talked to Shelley for a while.
Yeah.
Well, if you I can't imagine her drop, just sort of totally burning bridges into it. So I would assume she'd go back if she, needed to.
Well, Patty and Scott Sharp.
Yeah.
They're all Xero. So, and theirs is e-commerce. So there must be the links. I'm assuming that the interfacing with all these e-commerce sites must be better in Xero.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
I think that QBO, it seems like the accountant functionality is better in QBO than Xero. They seem like they're adding more features. And, when I was doing my certification, I'm thinking, hey, this isn't all that bad. Maybe I should, get more familiar with Xero, with the QBO.
Well, here's something you want to think about, though, with the QBO accountant.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, QuickBooks Capital went through and read all of the QBO accountants clients list. And then sent out emails to the pro advisors listing the clients that would be a good fit for their loans.
And a suggested credit line.
Oh, dear.
So that's the part that got me. One is like, hey, would your clients like to use our services? But this one says, well, this client would be approved for this amount, and this client, and I'm like, how did you all the same that without reading financials? What do you think, Greg?
Mine were all the same amount, no matter whether they were a $100,000 business or a $2.5 million business.
That's interesting.
They're all for the same amount, and I think that I had just heard from you earlier today or from someone that they were also reading desktop only client. In which case, that tells me they're just scraping the accountant side of it. They're not.
Yeah, that's just the name.
They're not digging into the.
So they got the clients, whether advisors, pro advisors are allowed to put their desktop clients in their client list for QBO.
Right. And I know they're not reading financials from those data files. So
right.
Good, I guess, if they wanted to, because it's linked in the background. But Well, the screenshot that I saw was all different amounts. So, but nobody's heard anything. I mean, it blew up in one of my tax forums. It's on a bunch of Facebook pages. So, but I haven't seen where they've actually addressed it.
Well, you'd wonder what kind of security those other sites have if they're getting client data, in terms of being hacked.
Well, they don't know that Greg's client is already a client. It already has a loan.
So how much information are they really getting? But that just means that...
I mean, like social numbers or credit card numbers or...
No, they better not.
Or just reports, just the P&L report.
Yeah.
Well, and there are programs that will hook up to your bank and let your bank keep track of your financials. Yeah, and I'm like, that sounds good in theory. And maybe if you're just cash basis, but we all know that there are some things that don't belong on a P&L that need to be on the balance sheet. And the other is, are the books done? A bank doesn't know if they're done.
No, and I really would question the categorization. So.
What kind of liability would you have if the bank makes a loan based on your clients?
Oh my
I remember them talking about this at QB Connect last year, that this was going to be on the horizon.
Yeah.
But
it's not a secret, yeah.
Yeah, it's not that it was any shock. And they even said, we're going to go out there and we're going to scrape the data because, your client has explicitly given consent to that. Maybe, I don't know. If we sign up for it, I can't imagine how.
Okay, so who owns the data? Right. And that's exactly what I meant when I said earlier when we were talking about Hector's, who owns the data. Intuit can be in that class too. It's a program, and even though
supposedly Intuit, you don't own the software.
That program.
Yeah, I mean, you don't own the Intuit software. You're just sort of leasing it.
You're leasing it. Even desktop's a lease.
Yeah, so are you transferring your rights when you assign? I mean, are you giving them any kind of rights to the data if you're allowing them to host it on their software?
Right, exactly.
It's a weird time we're in. Some of it's fun. Some of all these new toys are fun, but other times you're like, and I wonder, I've been distracted, I guess is a good word for it, by Intuit and data problems and issues that I wonder how much time I lose every day just dealing with stuff that's not billable. And it just seemed like we're at an easier time. Maybe it took us longer to crunch numbers, but I feel like I just got work out a lot faster in the old days that I am dealing with all the technology, and then it breaks and how
much time are you saving to spend 2 hours trying to figure out a QuickBooks problem,
All righty, we're going to move on. Sara, show us your banner, and then Dennis is going to tell us about his problem client. We didn't get to talk about that.
I'll tell you the details after the recording, probably. Just give.
You want to do that first? Because I jumped in before you last week.
Okay, it's fairly. If a IRS revenue officer shows up on your doorstep, you do not have to answer the questions. All I would do is just say, I'm going to call my accountant or my rep, even though you don't have one at the time, because they tend to get really aggressive, and they'll ask you to sign stuff. Like the client I have now, she signed a bunch of stuff that I wouldn't have let her sign, and making agreements and all that, and basically just being really intimidated by the agent. Whereas if you get someone that knows something about IRS representation, they know they can't just, the IRS is nothing if not the quintessential bureaucracy in following the rules. And they've got definite rules that they need to follow in dealing with clients. And if you don't know their rules, you have no protection if the IRS rep decides to kind of get really aggressive, because they are under a lot of pressure from their supervisors to close cases. And they are horrendously understaffed. And so there's a lot of pressure on them. So you got to look at where they're coming from. But you really don't want to try to deal with them yourself, especially if it's something where you owe taxes and they're demanding. I think I told you last year about the revenue officer that showed up on the guy's doorstep and demanding 7 tax returns when in reality he owed 14 tax returns because of his C Corp that they didn't know about. But the funny thing is that she was threatening to turn it over to audit, which I had to laugh at because it take good 6 to 12 months even to audit the books. But what was really amazing was that they had all of the transcripts, and they didn't do. It's called a substitute for return, an SRO, and they could have easily done an SRO on this guy, but they didn't do that. They just. So I don't know if the left hand wasn't communicating with the right, but yeah, just don't panic if they show up. And ideally, you've got an accountant you give a power of attorney to, so they could just call him or her right away. But yeah, I wouldn't. Pardon?
When I worked at a CPA firm, the owner would actively let the clients know, if an IRS agent ever comes to see you, here is what you do. You tell them, here is my accountant's name and my accountant's number. Contact them. We will set up an appointment. We will do what you want to do or whatever you need. You just need to do it with my accountant.
Yeah, I wouldn't even let them in my house unless they had a search warrant.
Right.
Well, get this. So I had a lovely client do a full-blown audit. I mean, everything. And so I said, don't talk to them. Call the CPA. I called the CPA, and she's like, oh, well, if they need our help. And I'm like, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to meet with them? Oh, no, yeah. And I'm like, so I actually stepped in and said, you're meeting at the CPA's office. You're not letting them in your business. Okay?
Yeah,
so they set up a meeting at the CPA firm, 9 o'clock on a Wednesday or whatever. They're sitting there, and that guy went to the office. He knew the owner was over at the CPA firm, and he's walking around talking to employees. So hi.
See, you have to tell your employees.
You work a week.
Boy, I would complain if the CPA had POA, I'd complain to the supervisor because they're not supposed to contact anyone from the business if there's a POA, power of attorney.
Part of what he was looking at was we didn't pay any overtime, and that's because they close at 4:58 on the dot. It's impossible to get overtime over there, and we could testify to that. And fortunately, every employee says, oh, we're usually out here about 4:45. So anyway, and then I had another friend, he had an audit because he hand does his tax returns. I'm serious.
Wow.
So they asked him, and my friend used to be a CPA. They were asking him because they didn't believe that he was living on what he said he was living on, and wanted to know how much money was in his wife's wallet. And he was telling me about this later, and he said, I understand you've got a job to do. I understand what you're trying to do. I know I have to answer you, but and he would always preface the answer with, I'm answering you under duress.
I'm recording this conversation.
$20 in her wallet. They're like, thought he was hiding asses or something. But anyway, the guy was really nice, but I could not believe the questions they were asking him.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I think clients resist because they think, oh, I'm going to have to pay my CPA X amount of dollars an hour.
Yeah, but if you agree to something that you didn't necessarily have to agree to.
The CPA is saving them thousands of dollars by not allowing them to do the things like you said.
Well, if that was one employee that said, oh, yeah, I work on Saturdays, or, lied or didn't.
It would have been a different story.
It could have been a whole nother ballgame. Yep.
Yeah, they also do like lifestyle audits where they'll.
That's what this was with my friend.
I mean, if you're claiming that you've got a $15,000 a year MLM company and you're living, in a $1 million house, they
wanted to see their camper. They wanted to say, well, don't you have any vehicles? Don't you have any furniture?
Yep.
And they're like, we're minimalist. We live on a sailboat. And the guy didn't believe it. The guy was like, really? And it was just almost like he just absolutely didn't believe him.
Well, you also make sure you get your bank statements and that you can account for any deposits that aren't income, because like if you get a loan, or if
Or
your
your
Aunt Martha
parents
gave
give
you
you money,
your
or
Aunt Martha gave you a gift or something, you want to make sure that, because they assume anything that's not, everything's income unless
it's all
proven
income.
otherwise.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, they're scary. DOL people are even scarier.
But
I told somebody this week that they were, one DOL auditor asked the company to ask the janitor for their client list to prove that they were in business for themselves and not an employee.
Oh my goodness.
They just happened to mention that to me, and I went. So I called her because, after 30 years, I know most of them, and I'm like, you can't. I said, hey, it's Sara. You can't ask that. And she goes, well, I can ask.
Okay.
Well,
Second one.
in the state of Washington for L&I, for like contractors,
Right.
you as the general contractor are supposed to make sure that these people are reporting tax returns and their 1040s, and
they're making us do the compliance. They're making
essentially.
us be the police
Otherwise,
officer.
guess what? They're going to be determined to be employees, and like with L&I, and if they're not registered with L&I, have are bonded, then they're going to be deemed to be employees, and you should have been paying them employment tax as opposed to a 1099.
He takes a picture of their business card. He takes a picture of their truck, because they'll have their little subcontractor name on the side of the truck. I said, anything you can think of.
Go to L&I and make sure they're bonded, or make sure that
Yeah, these guys, these guys aren't not around Georgia.
Right. Okay, last thing we're going to do is look at Sarah's banner.
Okay.
Sarah's banner is up. Go ahead, Linda. I'm sorry, we didn't hear you.
Oh. What about Linda?
I saw her lips move.
Hooray.
Okay.
Let's look at her banner.
Can you see it?
There. Oh, yeah.
So there wasn't supposed to be as much space, white space there and there to pull it up, but I don't think it'll be behind a table. I think we're going to do.
You can put it on top of the table, maybe?
No.
Yeah, we've
got a 10 by 10 booth, and then QBOA, we're going to share it. So he's got a banner and I've got a banner. And so.
What happened to the geese?
Huh? I know. I couldn't figure out how to Photoshop just these clear background so they're on the white, and I finally what am I doing? I don't have time to do this because I wanted to do the geese in the background
Somewhere else.
Yeah, and then and then what they did is they shipped the first draft without my authorization.
Of course.
And it's awful because I asked them to replace the logos with the high def file that I attached. I didn't know how to do it and then I asked them and I asked them to raise it a little from the bottom, and they squished it all up in the top and shipped it. Yep. So this is sharp and gorgeous, the logo, whereas the other one is like this big fuzzy thing, and I'm like, they said, just throw it in the trash. We're shipping you another one. So they overnighted it. It was great. And then I went into Canva.
That's great.
And I wanted just an 8.5 by 11. And
nice.
Very nice.
So what Ernest was giving me a hard time, he says, I can't read that font down there. And he said, the good rule of thumb for marketing apparently is never use more than 2 fonts on a page.
Right. And you use 3. Oh,
I used 3. Well, I did this one. And then, but down here, that's a review. See?
Right.
That's nice. That's very nice. The problem is the top left one. It's really hard to read the white lettering on the gold.
Yeah, I don't know whether well, it's also going to be in your face.
I thought that was green.
It's much better on paper.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
have you printed it yet, Sarah?
Very nice.
I ordered it at midnight and they shipped it the next morning.
Nice. Wow.
Oh. So I told you I had that 50% off coupon. And so I was like trying to be a graphics designer and doing all these designs and they, and I'm like, and I'm watching the clock and it's getting to 11:15, and then Ernest popped in to help me. And and I'm in Canva. So when I said download, it says, "Oh, we see you've made a flyer. Would you like to order the flyers?" And I'm like, "Really? How much?" Free shipping, the same paperweight, the same everything, the same quantity, and it came in $6 cheaper than the half price with Vista Prints. And it was going to add shipping. So I just went, sure, done, go to bed.
Nice, nice.
So I wanted people. Now here's the thing: they're still expensive. So, you know, we'll have them like on the back table. But and it's like the same thing about swag. You know, when you're little, I mean, I don't have any problem walking over to these big companies and taking every T-shirt I can get my hand on.
Right, right.
Even with the flyers, so we have all the cards, and then what we're going to do is like $99 just today at the booth.
Oh, okay. Your specials.
Yeah, just you want it, get it.
Perfect.
And we'll have my iPad or wherever. They're real easy just to check out, and so hopefully I can at least pay for the trip. So anyway, so that's it. That's my big marketing thing.
Very
awesome.
So
I think it looks great.
Are you collecting sales tax for out-of-state sales?
Stop it.
Well,
we're going to end on that.
That's because you're in Washington and you guys charge for downloadables, don't you?
I think so.
Yeah.
They try to charge for everything out here.
I know. So
there's no income tax.
If it ever becomes a real issue, I'm just not going to sell to anybody in Washington. Yeah.
All righty. We're going to end for today. See you all same time, same place next week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.